Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the August 27th, 2013 meeting of the Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen and Sewer Commissioners. We began the meeting at 6:30 and opened it then, and immediately went into executive session to discuss contracts and litigation where public discussion of those matters would have been detrimental to the interests of the town. So this commences the public portion of our meeting. May I have the roll call again, please?
Present. Selectman Tropiano, Selectman Whiteside, Selectman Slavin, Selectman Titlebaum, Town Administrator Derek Sullivan, Town Council Rich Bowen.
Okay, at this time, with the board's indulgence, I'd like to skip down to item number 8B on the agenda. This is the reading of the citation for Chief Howard Anderson. I understand you're watching at home, Chief. There will be a formal presentation of this at your retirement event on September 8th, which is at 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock at the Elks.
7 o'clock at the Elks. But in the interim...
See?
4.
We'll get it right yet. 4
Yeah,
o'clock.
eventually we'll get the right information out there. 4 p.m. at the Elks on September 8th. Thank you for correcting me.
We've only been late by 3 hours. If everybody could accommodate us, we'd like to have everybody from the fire department, the Prudential Committee representing ONS come up front over this area here. We'll present it out here.
We're not going to present it. We're going to hold it. You're going to read it, yes. Okay. Clerk Slavin is going to read this formally into the record.
Pick up one of those mics on the desk there. I'll pick up your something. Microphone is going to be a good thing.
Now, let me see. Bob, are you getting all of this on screen? He is.
Yes, he is. Hello? Good. Just in case, Jerry, I'm going to bypass the usual for a change. Before I read this, Chief Anderson has been an important, integral part of the town of Wareham, not just for the village of Onset, but for Wareham. His history goes back a long time. What I read here really isn't anything that really covers what he really represented and what he's done over the time. His retirement, he'll be sorely missed, and I don't think there's any words that can really express what he's done for all of us. Board of Selectmen, Wareham, Mass. awards the certificate of recognition to Howard Anderson. On behalf of the citizens of Wareham, and specifically the residents of Onset Village, we, the Board of Selectmen, thank you for your many years of exemplary service to the Onset Fire Department. As you embark on your much-deserved retirement, we want to take the opportunity to present you with this certificate and let you know that your long-standing commitment to the safety and well-being of our residents and visitors is very much appreciated. Although your job has not been an easy one, you have always performed your duties with professionalism and dedication, and your leadership will be missed. We wish you well in your retirement. Signed this 13th day of August, 2013, by the Board of Selectmen. Peter Titlebaum, Chairman, Alan Slavin, Clerk, Stephen Holmes, Patrick Tropiano, and Judy Whiteside.
So again, thank you, Chief Anderson. That was an impressive delegation from your department that showed up tonight. It's a measure of the love and respect they have for you. Thank you again for all your years of service.
He's a great guy.
Next item on the agenda, please.
Okay, we'll continue on. Anybody have any announcements here? Patrick,
No, I'm all set, thanks.
Judy,
Yes.
go ahead.
Right into the mic, Judy.
I have two announcements. One, I just want to remind people the holiday weekend is coming up, and according to town policy, through both fire departments as well as state regulation, there are to be no open fires or grills on any public property. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of those items. And the second announcement I have is that I'm working on a social media policy before we put the Facebook in place, because I think we should have the policy in place before we put the Facebook in place. So that will be before you in 2 weeks. That's all I have.
I have one announcement. Salerno Seaside Facility in Onset hosts the Children's Relief Taste of Sounds of, this year it's going to be Mexico. I hope everybody has good stomach pills. On Saturday, September 21st, the event begins at 6:30 p.m. A sumptuous buffet containing 18 dishes presented in 3 courses. Each guest receives a goodie bag, ticket for door prizes, and program book with the evening recipes, as well as Mexican culinary and cultural information. Silent auction contains items from Mexico, as well as culinary and handcraft items. Once again, business and families have donated time, talent, gift cards, and product donations to create an exquisite, affordable dining experience. Tickets are $35 prior, $40 at the door. The event will go from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. This year's proceeds support Turning Point Day Resource Center for the homeless, and it should be needy homeless, or nearly homeless, sorry. Mass Children's Relief coordinated with efforts with Turning Point for December's Kids Comfort Kits and Guyton Rescue. Tickets, menu, information, contact Sally Morrison at sammorrison@comcast.net, 508-295-7410. I will repeat this again in a couple weeks because it's all the way, the event isn't until the 21st. I'm sure people might miss it. Thank you.
I just have one thing. Earlier today, Selectman Slavin and I were privileged to attend a groundbreaking ceremony out at Rosebrook. This is for the new Cape Cod 5-cent savings bank full-service branch location that is going in there. And once again, I just wanted to thank the citizens of the town for their wisdom at the last town meeting, for voting for the TIF agreement that has allowed the development to proceed quickly out there. This has enabled companies to come in, to be associated, to be in a growing area. It's something that I think is very helpful in terms of attracting new businesses there. So again, thank you to the town meeting members who voted and helped get this accomplished and are now starting to see the benefits of the vote. Next item, please.
All set, Jerry? Citizens' participation?
Is there anybody who'd like to come forward and address the board this evening on any matters? Mrs. Slavin,
Not
how are you this evening?
Not fine, and you, sir?
Well, so far.
Okay. No. Just as a statement, I am a member of the Garden Club. I'm on the Conservation Commission. I'm here as an independent citizen of the town of Wareham. It's not reflecting any of my relationships with anything else in town. I'm here to talk about Lower Main Street. Last year, we planted trees along Main Street, and I understand that we accepted the project and we had a 1-year warranty on those trees. Right now, the tree in Pizzoli Square is half dead. It will never be a good-looking tree. I don't think it will even survive the next 2 years. There's several other trees from last year's projects that look like they're on their last legs. But to talk about Lower Main Street, the plan was to install 4 benches. But I'm more concerned about the grass that was supposed to be laid on 3 of the sites. To me, if I look at it, someone put down dirt. The dirt was full of weed seed. Whatever grass they put down never came up because the weed overpowered them. It's my understanding that the town does the contractor does 2 mowings, and then it's up to the town to accept the project. I strongly recommend that once we accept the project, we have 1-year warranty. 3 of those trees were transplanted from sites on Main Street. They've not been kept watered. They're not looking good, but I'm more concerned about the grass. I really think we should have all that soil removed and replaced with good soil and then seeded properly, because if we leave the weeds there, they'll always look like weeds. They'll always grow at different rate, therefore they'll always look unkept. And in the winter they'll be brown because weeds die in the winter. But it's my recommendation that you strongly look at that project before you accept it, because I don't think we can afford replacing the trees that are going to die on us within a year because they haven't been maintained, or the grass areas are not going to look too good. As an entrance to Wareham, I was sort of hoping for nice green lawns there, and we're not going to get it with weeds in its place. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I will comment that planting grass in the summertime is a fool's errand. This is why you do it in the spring and in the fall when it's cool. Regardless of the weed content in the grass seed, I don't care if you've got the best grass seed in the world. You put it in July, by September you have a nice harvest of weeds, and that's precisely what has happened here. This should have been held off on until after Labor Day, when the nights get cooler, when the seed tends to germinate better, and it's a lot easier to keep it wet so it will germinate. So with that in mind, Mr. Sullivan, perhaps you could look into the status of these agreements and get back to the board at some point in the future as to what, if anything, could be done about it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Anything from the board on this, or?
The weeds die in September. That's the way it is. And then they could splice seed it if they had to, and then as long as they hit it with weed killer in the first thing in the spring, no problem. Have nice grass. I know this because I'm in the process of doing this with my yard.
Maybe we'll wait and see how your experiment goes.
Yeah, maybe you should.
Next item, please. Any more citizens, or is that it for the evening? Ma'am?
Good evening, everyone.
Pull the microphone close.
Right into the mic.
It doesn't work unless you almost need
Okay.
it.
My name is Peggy Race. I am a resident of Wareham, and I come here because I'm a little bit desperate because I have not had a very pleasant or livable 6 years living in Wareham due to a business on Cranberry Highway that does not live by the regulations that are set right within our town books, okay? And I'm talking about lights that, if you go down Cranberry Highway, just about every single business has lights that actually go down onto the property and not straight forward. And the business that I live behind has lights that flood right through my slider in the back, and another one on the other end of his property comes right through my kitchen window, such that you can't even go out to have a cup of coffee after supper in the fall. And he's only open seasonally, and the lights are there 365 days a year. And last year, at this point in time, when he was closing, these blue lights appeared now in the back of his building. So now in my backyard, I have these 2 blue lights like headlights, okay, aside from the taller lights that flood my house, such that I have like quilts on the windows, somehow trying to make a bedroom dark to live in. He is not amenable to being talked to. I've tried. The electrical inspector has been good in the town. At one point, he had his electrical wires on my new fence when I moved in, and he didn't move them asking him, but the electrical inspector finally went out and those got moved. I just don't think it's right. I also have the road onto Cranberry Highway, which abuts the property. The trucks come out, and the trucks are his responsibility. I can't blame the customers, but when they come out onto Railroad Ave, is the street I live on, when they come out onto Railroad Ave, and I drive for a living, I go house to house doing healthcare, when I make the commitment to come into my street from Cranberry Highway, when I've already made the commitment and crossed that yellow line, and somebody comes out from the landscaping place and is there, I'm like ready to get nailed by traffic on Cranberry Highway. And, the other issue, we have land that's caved in on the road, so I'm bottoming out. I have a small car. I just don't think he's a responsible businessman, and he's an out-of-town person, and I just think he should treat Wareham
citizens better. And I'm not a confrontational person, but I've tried 6 years to resolve this, and it's just not right. It's like being bullied. Okay?
Selectman Slavin.
You came before us, I think, last year.
I've never been to this meeting, okay? I've
been
gone
to the
through
planning
town hall,
board?
and I've talked with you. You've talked to me on the phone.
Yes.
We've kind of played phone tag.
This is going down Cranberry Highway. I won't mention the business, but it's a garden shop, and you had issues there.
That's
Have
right.
you spoke recently at all to the new building inspector? Actually, Director of Inspection, Robert Iafredi?
No, last time I talked, it was Mr. Moore, and I was told that he was temporary, and that just sounded like another dead end for a while, so.
Could you leave your information with our town administrator? We have a full-time Director of Inspectional Services. Actually, it was Mr. Moore's choice.
Actually, I know it's Mr. Iafredi, right?
Right.
I haven't met him yet, but I
And-
mean, I do know of him from Bridgewater.
And he hopefully can help you. Can you get back to me afterwards and let me know what's up? I thought this was kind of taken care of, and I apologize.
It's never been taken care
Well,
of.
I did make a point to go after it, so if you could.
Yeah, I mean, they should be following whatever the rules are, and if the rules are not being followed, then we need to make sure they are.
Yeah, one of the interesting things here is that we're bringing up the issue of light pollution. It's one of the sort of the last frontiers in terms of what constitutes pollution in our society.
Right.
It's kind of a pet peeve of mine. I've harped upon Mr. Sullivan that if we're going to go out and replace lights, I want shades. I don't want the light going up into the sky. I want to be able to see the Milky Way at night. So I'm frankly probably considered a little bit of a kook on the subject, but it is an emerging area. And municipalities are starting to regulate these things. I'm sure Attorney Bowen will agree that it is sort of one of the last frontiers in terms of what we can, as a society, consider to be a nuisance in the legal sense, things that we don't think people should put up with caused by our fellow humans. So it's an emerging area. I don't know that there's much in the Massachusetts laws that you can go on to deal with light pollution. We don't really have anything, I think, on our own bylaws to regulate it. But it's, as we've just heard from the citizen, it's a concern, and it's something we probably need to look at.
It actually is. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
There actually is, there is regulations, and there is in place. When there's a site plan review done, I know that my little time on the planning board, about 6 years, whatever, any project coming before us, we would have issues with signs. We would also have issue with lighting and how the lighting had to go down, and lighting would flood out, and there were things like lumens, which is the rating of lights. So I'm hoping that the building inspector can go pull the original site plan for that property to see what was required and what was allowed, because we do have rules and regulations that at the time of the site plan. And actually the citizens are allowed to come to the planning board when that site plan is being presented with those issues. So there may have been something done way back then, and somehow it got buried in the weeds, as they say, and it's not being observed.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe we have a part of our bylaw in our that says that the light can't cascade onto another property, which means that if you have lights on your property, you have to make sure they shine on your property.
Let's see what we can do. Thank you again.
Anybody else for citizens' participation, or next item, please?
Consent agenda, I don't have any bills or documents for tonight. Next is your,
That's okay. Call up.
we next have the Committee for Beach and Tourism. Bruce Hutchins is the first one I have on the list.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So you're interested in serving on the Beach and Tourism Advisory Committee?
Yes,
Why
sir.
don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure.
I think we all know, but maybe some people out there watching don't. So give us your background, what you're doing, and why you'd like to get involved with this.
I have been a resident of the village of Onset, town of Wareham, for 70 years. The first 60, I was a summer seagull, and the last 10 I have been in retirement near the boat ramp over in Onset. When I retired, well, actually, let's go back, and I'll say that when I was a young man, my first job was with a company called Dainty Maid. I did everything from washing dishes to cooking on the grill to making and selling ice cream. My first year as an educator, I earned $4,800 teaching kids for 10 months of the year, and then during the summer, sold popsicles for 5 cents and made $3,000. So it was a worthwhile career. When I retired, I became active with the Onset Bay Association, and through that, I was recruited by Marilyn Wally, then seated director, to assist in taking over from the Cranberry Highway Association that was bowing out of operating the Cranberry Region Visitor Center out on Interstate 195. I've been doing that since 2006. I have for you a little bit of the history that you might be interested in and some of the statistics. We've served an average of about 20,000 a year from 48 of the 50 states and about 40 foreign countries. We estimate that we've been bringing in approximately close to $1 million in additional revenue to the town with our referrals to Cranberry Highway, Onset, Wareham, and the surrounding area. My interest is a continuation of an interest in tourism, and hope to bring to the committee some of the experiences we have had.
Questions from the board?
No, I'm all set.
Selectman Whiteside?
I don't know you, so it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. And can you just tell me where you grew up? Because it wasn't New England.
I was born and raised in Ossining, New York, of parents who were New Englanders, so I was not allowed to have an aunt. I only had an aunt. I could not be a New York Yankee fan. I could only be a Red Sox fan.
Good.
That's rightfully
My
so.
family goes back in Onset to the days when it was a religious retreat. My grandfather was a Baptist minister in Dorchester and operated the Old Brown Baptist Church that was located over on Point Independence during the summer. Danny Maid provided me income as a youth, and it also provided me my wife, who was my summer romance of 49 years ago.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Selectman Slavin?
I just want to thank Bruce for stepping up. I've had time speaking with him about the 195 piece and how the state doesn't support us enough on that whole project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your interest. Well, let's have a motion.
You want to interview the other person and do them both at the same time?
No, we'll do them one at a time.
Okay. I'll make a motion to have Bruce Hutchins join the Beach and Tourism Commission, basically with a... okay. Sorry for a minute, we have a little glitch here. Let's see, this is...
What do you need, name and address?
No, we have a
Date.
date
No, you're
issue
okay,
here.
but nobody typed in the year for the expiration of your
And it
term.
also says April 30th.
Please put an expiration date.
And it should be June 30th.
Right, we should make this June 30th, and we should make it expire
14,
2014,
15, 16. So it should be June 30th, 2016.
2016. Okay.
Sorry about
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Motion made by Selectman Slavin, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 4-0-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Hutchins. Next, please.
Next, I have Linda Burke.
Hi, Linda. Didn't even see you sitting over there quietly.
I was hiding over there.
I guess so.
Good evening.
Good evening.
If you'd tell everybody who doesn't know you who you are and why you're interested in serving on this committee and what your experiences are and what you'd like to do, if you would please.
My name is Linda Burke, and I live in Parkwood Beach. I'm a relative newcomer to the town of Wareham. I've lived here for 3 years and have worked here for about 10. I currently work as the Vice President for Marketing and Communication for the 80 Makepeace Company. And in that capacity, I can certainly attest to the effectiveness of Bruce Hutchins's referrals. Among my responsibilities at Makepeace are promoting the events and retail activities that we have, as well as real estate marketing. And I think that one of the things that...
Bruce.
One of the things that I bring to the table is a knowledge of marketing opportunities that may be a little bit unusual, may be extremely inexpensive, and may make people more aware of the resources that are available in the town of Wareham, both residents who live here and people who come during the summer and visitors who just come for the day. I think that we have a lot of underutilized resources, not just beaches, but walking trails and kayaking opportunities and other sorts of activities that would really attract people to the town.
Okay, well, thank you for that information. Selectman Tropiano, any questions for
No questions for Linda.
Thank you.
Selectman Whiteside?
Thank you very much, Linda.
Selectman
Nice
Slavin?
to see you again twice in one day.
Yes, it's been a long day.
A long day.
Likewise. Well, thank you for stepping up. We'll try to make we'll try to end the day for you right now. How about a motion?
Make a motion for Linda Burke to join the Beach and Tourism Committee, term to expire no later than June 30th, 2016.
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Slavin, seconded by Selectman Tropiano. Anything else on the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 4-0-0.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
stepping up. And just procedurally, you will need to stop by the Selectman's office to pick up, well, actually, we have them, don't we?
No, it has. No.
You got to stop by the office and pick up the papers, and then you've got to go get sworn in by the town clerk,
Same as always.
just like any other committee,
Senior moment there. Your turn.
I guess. Be nicer, I'll rush you.
Next is license and permits. We have none for tonight. Next item will be sewer business. Funding source for contract 2. We need to set a date somewhere into September where we make a decision how we're going to do this. We'll need to sit down again to talk about the enterprise fund and the retained earnings, et cetera, and whether or not we're going to use the meals tax money option, or what we're going to do since the money's in place there. But we need to take this and get it off our plate.
Yep, agreed. That will be an agenda item probably for either the 10th or the 17th.
You'll take care of that?
Yep.
Thank you.
So noted.
Any other sewer business?
None.
Next is our usual discussion on guidance to the town administrator for the current year. Mr. Tropiano?
Guiding the town administrator? I think he's got plenty of guidance right this minute
Okay.
from us.
Mrs. Whiteside?
I continue to appreciate the work that you do for the town.
I have two quick issues. As everybody know, our town planner left to go to Raynham. And I think it's incumbent upon us to put out an RFP as soon as possible to go for a full-time, year-round town planner. The planning office, I remember back a few years ago when there was no town planner for a year and a half at that point, when I started to do some paperwork back and forth, and the office was just inundated. We were not doing our job. We really weren't representing the town and the interests because we just didn't have enough people to make it work. And if we sit and wait on this issue, it's going to be a problem for us because things are turning. What happened today at over at AD Makepeace at Rosebrook was just the first piece of multiple stores coming in. Walmart, we're looking at possibly a groundbreaking as early as January of this coming year. There's property across the side, there's property in front. I think we're just going to see a constant development there. We had a very interesting and very uplifting information from basically Cape Cod 5 and what they're looking to do and get involved with the community with their outreach and everything else. So I think it's incumbent upon us to get a town planner in place as soon as we can. And the other pieces, I had one issue. We've had a couple citizens have had issues, which I think we referred to you on the over by the onset boat ramp with the the rocks and stuff on the beach there, and also the drainage pipe. Before Mr. Teitelbaum and I walked in the door, the gentleman was going to come in and speak to us again, but I told him that we were working on it. So just give us an update somewhere down the line. He doesn't think we've done much yet. He said the truck was down there, but they didn't really pick up any rocks.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Menard and myself went down there and
I
met
know.
with, was it the same gentleman?
Yes.
We sent the beach cleaner down to go through there, and well, one of the things we're trying to let people know is just because we're the town, it doesn't mean we can do what we want. We're still beholden to conservation and items, but we are, I know Mr. Menard is looking into changing the direction of the pipe, but that will take some other actions to get that through. So I will let him know, though, that the machine that came down was inadequate.
I think he said the machine was too big and really couldn't handle or something like that. Thank you.
Yeah, just to follow up briefly on the issue of the town planner. Maybe I'm losing it here, but did you not raise the issue of possibly expending more money to get a full-time town planner in, and has this not already been discussed with the FinCom?
Yeah, I brought it in front of the Finance Committee to let them know that's one of the objectives that I would like to move forward, because even though I can't openly quantify it and tell you exactly how much it'll bring back to us, I think for a stable and healthy community, having a full-time planner is what really will help us move on in a positive direction. I'm looking at the budget and what we've received for increases in some of the state aid or reductions in some of the assessments, and seeing if we can pull from there. I hadn't wanted to originally touch those because I thought that would be something for an emergency, but we were afforded an opportunity to help the town, and I think it would be money well spent.
Yes, I agree, and I'm not going to sit here and recite what Selectman Slavin just told you, but ditto. And that's all I have. Next item, please.
Item B, we've already taken care of. Item C, we're not prepared on that tonight. Item D, I will refer, that's the Hammond School and the boys. I believe Mr. Teitelbaum was involved in a discussion with that today.
Yeah, I'll this isn't anything that requires action by the board tonight, but it's just on here sort of as an update. Just to go back in history here, initially the Boys and Girls Club had gone to the school committee and had obtained their permission to utilize the Hammond School, which has been shuttered for school purposes and was at the time of essentially a vacant building, for use as their facility. Eventually, everyone involved realized that this needed to come before the Board of Selectmen, and that in order for them to procure the building, or for anybody else to procure the use of the building, there had to be an RFP, and the state procurement process and laws had to be followed. Mr. Sullivan did issue an RFP. A couple of people came back with bids, and those two parties were the Boys and Girls Club and also the Wareham Early Childhood, which is essentially a daycare outfit, a child care outfit. And today had the opportunity to meet in the school superintendent's office to reiterate this is still a building that remains under school department control. The only role for the Board of Selectmen in any of this is to review and go through with council any lease documents that emanate from the RFP process to be executed. We don't have, it's not up to us to decide who goes in there, but the purpose of today's meeting was to see whether, frankly, the facility could be used by both of the respondents to the RFP, and the school superintendent is working on that with those two parties, and we look forward soon to some sort of a resolution here. I know Mr. Sullivan's going to be involved too, since it's his RFP, and he's got to make sure that the terms of that are followed. So, but that's where we are with it today. There have been a lot of questions about this. I know a lot of people are interested in both the Boys and Girls Club and also the daycare which is actually what it is, early child care. These are both important things. And if I could actually speak on behalf of the school superintendent, she believes, and I think there was concurrence in the room, that it would make sense for both of these parties to be in the same place at the same time. You might see people essentially almost graduating from one to the other. Selectman Tropiano?
Any of these leases have to be signed by us, right?
Absolutely. They are negotiated by other parties. They come to us. We look at them. We go through them with council. So nothing's happened yet.
Well, but the point is that this is really kind of not a nice thing, what happens here, that it's in their control, yet we have to sign the documents after the fact.
Well, but this is how the general laws work. They did not relinquish the building. They did not relinquish control of the building. They actually had sent a letter relinquishing control of the building to us, but we did not accept that timely, and in the meantime, they reconsidered and retained control of the building. This is the school department.
Why did we not accept it?
I believe they never officially relinquished control in a letter. They gave us a letter, I believe, saying that they were going to move out, but they never actually finalized it.
I'll have Attorney Bowen speak to this because I think he probably remembers the specific documents at issue.
I mean, I'm interested because if I'm going to have to sign a lease with somebody, you know what I mean? It's my name on there, not theirs. So,
with your permission, Mr. Chairman, just to go back, the former superintendent had communicated to the town administrator, and I believe the Board of Selectmen, that they didn't want the building anymore. The town administrator came to me and showed me the document, and I said, oh, okay, there's a process that has to be followed. And the process would involve the school committee taking a formal vote saying, we don't want the building anymore, it's surplus to our requirements, would then put an article on town meeting, transfer custody from the school committee to Board of Selectmen, to whomever, and then at that point, it's out of the school committee's purview. What happened was the letter came in, I gave the advice, and we began to work on the mechanics of getting the transfer done. There was a change of heart on the school department side. I'm not familiar with how that came about, but what I can tell you is that before we could follow through on the mechanics, and this would have been on the Springtown meeting, that's what we were shooting for, there was a change of heart, and so at that point, the school committee was within its rights to say, we've changed our mind, we're holding on to the building. Now, so that's the history. With respect to your concern about negotiating the lease and the fact that you have to sign it, the section of Chapter 40 involving school buildings not in actual use, it's a strange one. What it says is that the school committee, on such terms as it deems appropriate, may lease the building out, but the way the statute is also written is that it requires the approval of the town. Now, when something says the approval of the town, that means you. I mean, you are the town. Now, my take on it is this. They have the absolute authority. Oh, and by the way, there's that unusual issue about the term. It can be 10 years, and there's even a possibility of some renewal. So even that is different from what we're usually used to. Okay, now with that aside, they negotiate the lease terms. They come to you and say, okay, to complete the process, we would require the town, your approval for this. While you aren't the actual negotiating party, there's nothing to say that you have to sign the lease. I hesitate to use the word pocket veto, but I guess in a way, if you determine that the lease, for whatever reason, was not a good one, you could simply not execute it. And that is that.
yeah, well, that's fine. My issue with this would have been, who takes in the money? Where does the money go? Is the school department still maintaining and taking care of the building and so on? How much money is surplus? How much money is not? And if, in fact, there is, you take in X number of dollars, but it costs X number more dollars to maintain. In other words, let's say, for the sake of it, you took in $100,000, it cost $300,000 to take care of the building. You got $200,000 negative. Now that's coming out of the school department side. We're maintaining the building, and of course we know that the roof and everything else belongs to us anyway. Okay, so we're still going to have to go in there and put a roof on that if it needs it, or do whatever in favor of the tenants that are in there if we sign the lease. So there's a lot of financial issues here at stake that I think we need to know about, and I want to know about before I sign any lease with anybody.
Well, as is the practice here, you'll see the lease document well before there's a discussion of it, and you certainly have an opportunity as a selectman to go directly to council with any concerns, and also, you know, I think Derek can speak to some of the specifics of process here. So.
It was the money wouldn't flow to the town or the school, but to a revolving fund for the maintenance and the taking care of, if you will, for Hammond School. But the first part, when they calculated the minimum for the lease of the building, was just what it would cost for the heat, the electricity, anything like that. So if we did just one of them, it would have covered the bare minimal. Now, if we're leasing out to both of them, the rest of that money will be going into the revolving fund, and that can be what's used to, if you have to fix the roof, if you have to add a handicap ramp, or replace the windows. Now, it wouldn't be enough to do all that right away, but that would be an account that would accumulate, and we could possibly borrow using those revenues going into the future. So.
And with your permission, Mr. Chairman, just to follow up on Selectman Tropiano's concerns, I'm very, very sensitive to the issue that he raises. The a lease condition that I have suggested, and we'll see if it comes back to you, was that if the cost of maintaining the building at any point exceeded the amount of money that we could afford or the revenue that we were taking in, that we would have the ability to get out. And in fact, in the draft lease that I had toyed around with and had forwarded to the parties, that clause is in capital letters, I think even in bold, so that nobody would have any illusions that if the roof went or a boiler exploded, that, you know, we were going to pay it for the benefit of tenants. No, I presumably it might be a case where you say, tenants, we're sorry, the boiler blew up, you're done.
Well, obviously that certainly puts me at rest. I just don't understand it doesn't logically make sense why the school department would want to hold on to the building and lease it for 10-year periods, and be involved in it anyway. I mean, they're not in that business. Their business is to educate, you know, than to be in the lease business. And I don't understand that kind of thinking. Frankly, I think they should have turned it over to the town, and then we could do whatever with it. And if at some point they needed the building back, then they could come and say, well, we need the building back. And at that point, then we could deal with whatever the leases were or whatever, and then give the building back if necessary. But I just don't see them, I don't see them being in the lease business, so to speak.
May I?
Yes.
The original deed for the property requires that it is used for educational purposes. That is part of the deed, the sending, when we purchased the property. So that's simply one of the restrictions on the property.
Well, but if you left it empty, that's not using it for educational purposes.
But it's retaining it within the school department, which counts for the same thing. So that's...
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, if I may, when back in the late winter when we were looking at the superintendent's request, and I see Selectman Slavin smiling, because one of the things that we had talked about at that time was what deed restrictions might be in there, and whether there's a process that you can follow. You go to the Attorney General's office, it's called a CPRE petition. And we had actually talked about whether we would have to do that with respect to this building. But, you know, once the transfer request disappeared, that was the end of the CPRE discussion.
Selectman Slavin?
There's a little more involved. They're not keeping the building empty. The reason is, I believe, was the Everett School became uninhabitable due to roof conditions, leakage, etc. They had to move certain part of the Everett School, which is administrative functions, to a building. So they pulled it back because they were going to have to use the Hammond School. I believe right now they're using 2 to 4 classrooms in the Hammond School, which they will continue to use. They're going to be leasing out portions that they're not using. So the school department, even though it's occupying a bunch of this building that we have here, I believe the superintendent's office is right across from us, they will be using the Hammond School on an ongoing basis for their purposes as well. That's why they went and asked for the building to come back to them.
Well, anything else to be said on this, or are you?
No, I mean, we're gonna talk about it again, but.
Oh, we sure
we'll
are.
See where all the shells end up.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And again, you've got two different entities, really. Us as the final signatories, as the executive branch, and then them as the party still retaining, I don't want to say day-to-day control. If you lease something for 10 years, you're kind of given up day-to-day control over the portion you lease, but it's still their building nonetheless. So anyway, next item.
Next item is the remote participation, adopting the policy. The policy number is 2013-04. Everybody should have in their packet. Basically, it is explains in detail exactly how remote participation works through, I think it was Mass General Law you supplied originally. Yes?
Yes.
So this just lays it all out. It takes into account a lot of issues people had brought up and asked about. If you want, I can give you a couple points on it. Basically, remote participation technology is limited to telephone, internet, or satellite-enabled audio or video conferencing or any other technology that enables remote participant or all persons present at the meeting location to be clearly audible to one another. Technology shall allow remote participating members and all persons present at the meeting location to be clear and audible. But there's other things there. Physical attendance is an unreasonable difficult, which is the term they use legal. And it explains what it is. And such factors are personal illness, personal disability, emergency, military service, or graphic distance. It still requires a quorum of the board has to be physically present. So if you don't have a quorum, you have, say, a 7-member board, you have 3 members there and someone wants to participate remotely, that is not a quorum. And also the chairman or the acting chairman of any board, committee, commission, if they are not in favor of remote participation, they cannot allow it. So it's nothing it's automatically has to do. It's not a mandatory procedure to do it that way. And that's really I think the couple pieces that people had questions about. And again, I bring the fact again, it's something that the committee makes a decision if they want to allow it or not. It's not something that automatically happens. Thank you.
And just for information purposes, these terms were pulled directly from Secretary of the Commonwealth's regulations allowing this, which are, somewhere in the Code of Mass Regs, I forget the specific number, it's 951 something or other, and there's a lot to 951, so good luck finding it based on that direction. Attorney Bowen, have you had a chance to take a look at this? And, yes. And
if you want, I'll read into the record. It's 940 CMR 29-10.
940 CMR, so I was off, so see. You've had an opportunity to review this policy, and you believe that this matches the intent of the Attorney General's regulations and would suffice under the law?
I do.
Okay. Well.
We've already voted basically for this 410 a while back.
Yep. Are there any questions from the board about the specific policy itself? Well, let's have a motion, I guess.
Motion to adopt the remote participation policy number 2013-04.
Motion
Second.
made by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Slavin. Anything on the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
One opposed, abstain, 310.
Next item up is something that was forwarded back, I think, in August,
Yeah, it's not ready yet.
and we're not ready yet on that. Okay, we'll pass on the Board of mission statement.
Yes, that's something anyway I think we should have all 5 selectmen present to discuss. going
We have,
forward.
next item is condensing of town committees. I know we're waiting on a few legal issues as far as the differences in committees. We did get a notice today from, I believe it was Marine Resources or through the Harbor Master, that that particular committee is having problems getting a quorum, and they were questioning whether they could basically continue to function. We had put them in with other committees under natural resources, so that's something I think if you want to put on the agenda for between the 10th and 17th, and we'll try and get the background work done. There's 4 or 5 committees, and we'll put it out and see what we can do with that. It's a committee
Before
that
we
was
put it
set
on
by
the-
town meeting.
It was a committee established by town meeting?
This, I believe it goes way back. I couldn't find it, but I asked a few people. They told me that Marine Resources was down by town meeting somewhere in the past, but there's nothing in our bylaws. It was not a bylaw committee per se.
With that in
way,
mind,
way back.
if town meeting creates, then it's up to town meeting to
Exactly.
remove. I don't think there's, as a practical matter, I don't think we've got time to come up with a warrant article to deal with it this fall, but in terms of this and all of the condensing, I guess, that we're going to consider,
We need to start.
well, let's talk about this. Is spring a good target for this? Is the Springtown meeting a good target time to try to get some of this done?
It's quite involved, and it's going to take a lot of thought, so I don't want to rush it anyways, but I want to get started.
Right,
on
but
it.
we're not going to try to do any of this fall, I guess is my point, because it is
Not for
involved.
fall town meeting.
Okay, all right, then. It takes a little of the pressure off us. But it's one of those things that I think needs to just get on the agenda periodically, otherwise it's going to be hard to get the work done. So with that in mind, how about we revisit this on the 17th?
17th.
Okay, I'll mark it down for that.
17th, 24th even.
Next item, please.
Discussion on, we have on cemetery commissioners.
Yes. I'm the liaison to the cemetery commissioners, and I went, I'm guessing 4 weeks ago, to a posted meeting. And there was only one member of the commission there. It's a 3-person commission. So we had an informal meeting where I learned how things are done today, and met with Dave Menard and Mr. Bergamasco. There was a second meeting a couple of weeks after that, and there was a quorum, although one of the members was late and one of the members had to leave early, so that the total of the agenda was not addressed. The commission has had a lot of problems getting a quorum. They've had 4 meetings so far this year. They're supposed to meet the second Tuesday of the month. I think they had a total of 7 meetings last year, according to the town clerk's records. It may seem a weird thing to say, but I've actually spent a lot of time looking at the town cemeteries, as well as adjoining town cemeteries, as well as looking online at other cemeteries. There are 3 town-owned cemeteries in Wareham, and they're Center, Long Neck, and Agawam. Long Neck is a very small cemetery, and most people probably couldn't find it. It's a very pretty cemetery, but it's very, very small. Center Cemetery is large and across from the Catholic cemetery. If you drive up the road between the 2 of them, you're struck by the lack of maintenance and the lack of respect shown to the dead on the town-owned property. I'm not being critical of the municipal maintenance department. Mr. Sullivan and I have had several conversations about this situation. There has been a substantial reduction in the number of people who work in the cemeteries, substantial reduction in the time allowed in the municipal maintenance department to the keeping of the cemeteries. Agawam is the one that I know best. For one reason, I have several family members buried there. And as I was burying one in April, I took a look around and I was appalled. There are many non-native species living in that cemetery. The yucca is a native plant to southwestern United States. It's related to the Joshua tree, which can live for 1,000 years. I'm not sure why they were ever planted in any of the cemeteries around here. One of the nicknames for the plant is the ghosts in the graveyard plant, because they do sprout white flowers on their pointed leaves. Agawam is also subject to huge invasion of bittersweet, which is a terrible vine to try and get rid of, and some trumpet vine that was planted apparently by, I'm not sure who. The cemetery commissioners have regulations, which they reviewed and renewed 4 or 5 years ago. But there were also rules and regulations prior to that, and they prohibit a lot of what is happening in the cemeteries. For instance, if you have a plot, you are allowed to plant, you're allowed to put decorations on the first 18 inches away from the tombstone. You are not allowed at any time to plant any plants in the cemetery. It is clear from looking at both Center Cemetery and Agawam Cemetery that that regulation has not been enforced. It makes it very difficult for the people who are mowing the cemeteries to go around trees, bushes, thorns, bees' nests, little picket fences, rocks, or other things that are not allowed. So the other thing that is happening is that in Center Cemetery, there's a corner of the cemetery where you can all get a good laugh out of this one, the no-tell motel. Kids hanging around doing whatever kids do, and in fact some people sleep in their cars in that portion of the cemetery. It is embarrassing to have many veterans in all of our cemeteries. Many of the flags for the veterans were broken or removed from the graves in Center Cemetery as well as Agawam Cemetery. I'm guessing that that probably is a kid's trick as well. There is no money to fix what is clearly, in my opinion anyway, disrespect for the dead as well as disrespect for the living. I'm hoping that the issue of not being able to get a quorum is helped along by our condensing of committees. And just as a historical reference, many years ago when I was a selectman in a previous iteration, I was a cemetery commissioner. And we never lacked for a quorum, and it was not an issue because it was part of the regular agenda. So I just wanted to bring my fellow selectmen up to date. It may seem like something trivial to some of you. To me, who is a child of the Vietnam War, it is not trivial. Many of my relatives didn't come back. We owe it to them.
Well, thank you very much for that report and summation of the importance of cemeteries in our town life, and also to the individuals who were there, to the veterans. I will confess that when you started talking about invasive species, I'm glad that you followed that up with yucca, because I was concerned that you were talking about something else out in the cemeteries. But in any event, no, this is a serious matter. And to the extent that the cemeteries require management, we have to make sure that those people charged with doing so are able to do it. So thank you for bringing this to our attention, and as we go forward looking at the various town committees and commissions and everything else, certainly I would expect this to be part of that discussion.
Thank you. And again, I just want to reiterate that Mr. Sullivan and his staff have been extremely helpful in answering any questions that I had. Oh, and by the way, the records for the perambulation of the bounds are actually kept in the Municipal Maintenance Department, which is totally another one.
Okay, next item, please.
Just on the cemetery commissioners, I went and back in the records to July of 2007. There was an issue about the 3-member Board of Selectmen had appointed themselves as cemetery commissioners, and there was a question by the then selectmen. Basically, March of 71, the town voted by ballot to have the Board of Selectmen appoint cemetery commissioners. In July of 71, the 3-member Board of Selectmen appointed themselves. Then there was a question, which I think Attorney Bowen was looking into, whether or not that was an ethics issue, which was brought up in 2007. And at that point there, they appointed 3 cemetery commissioners, not Board of Selectmen. And that's what I found for background history.
And for as long as anybody in this room can remember, the selectmen were in fact cemetery commissioners.
Okay, well, thank you for that clarification.
That is an option also that we could look at.
We all set with this one?
Done for today.
Okay. Next item,
Go
please.
back on. Next one I have is the Facebook. I think Mrs. Whiteside brought that up originally.
Yes, I spoke earlier that I would be bringing up a social media policy for you, not next week because I hope that we're on vacation.
We
but
are.
I will have a draft to you for your review, as well as an update on the internet policy that we already have.
10th or 17th.
I'm sorry?
You want to do it for the 10th or the 17th?
It doesn't matter.
Put it for the 17th, if you could.
You'd like this to come back up on the 17th?
Yeah.
Okay,
Whatever,
that's fine.
whichever is easier for you, Mr. Tuttle.
Next item is the FEMA flood insurance update, if you would. We are a little amiss. We had this on our agenda actually for 4 weeks ago. I think Wareham Week basically scooped us on this, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, it came up. The reason this had come up through some of the real estate brokers actually had sent me some information. I had been following some of the FEMA insurance, but I missed what they call the BIGGERT, which is BIGGERT Waters with an S Act, which was stuffed into a transportation bill that the federal government kind of pushed through. In Massachusetts, I believe the map we have shows
It's not attached.
NFIP policyholders, which are basically subsidized insurance holders. Massachusetts has between 10,001 and 25,000. Most of those are either on the western part of the state where the rivers are or along the coast. Unfortunately, Wareham has a lot of FEMA insurance because we have a VE zone, etc. here. What has happened is they're going to go and have what they call full risk coverage. So if there's any kind of a risk, the insurance that they have there, basically your policies that you pay, your premiums are going to cover a full risk, which means the rates will go up substantially. This basically went into effect of January 1st, 2013, and a couple other things cycle in as well. In businesses, they're affected as of October 1st, 2013. I'll give you an example, which I think I did once before. If you have, say, in the Swift Beach, Briarwood communities, Parkwood, we have a lot of communities that fall into this area that with this flood insurance because most of them are below the water level for flood. Pinehurst is another one. You have a property between $200,000 and $250,000. The rates right now for the flood insurance are around $3,000 approximately. Basically, those rates could go to $10,000 or more. What it does is every year they increase the rates by 20% until it's at what they call full risk compliance. We need, as a town, to speak to obviously our representatives at the state level, but especially at the federal level, because this would be not just a hardship, this could be a situation where homeowners that are on a fixed income can't afford these rates. If they don't have the insurance, and if they still have a mortgage, their mortgage could be called in. So this is something that's not a well type of thing. This is a serious issue. We have, like I say, at least 5 or 6 areas in town with high concentrations of flood insurance, and I don't see how these people are going to pay for this.
Just as a news update on this, I actually read a story, I think about a week ago, where one of the 2 bill authors, U.S. Representative Maxine Waters of L.A., is, I don't want to say reconsidering, but is feeling the heat to do something about this, and has actually asked, I guess, the chairman of whatever subcommittee deals with this thing to try to reopen hearings so that they can mitigate some of the costs. How they could have not figured this out in the first place is beyond me, but I don't pretend to know how Washington works a lot of the time. But anyway, there is that possibility that the impacts will be mitigated by Congress before they do take effect directly. But this is, it's an unpleasant bill for a coastal community or any community along a river that tends to flood, and we happen to be one of the former. So there's nothing we can do as a municipality to mitigate against this. This is a federal program. We don't have any control over that. But as Selectman Slavin alluded to, we can certainly seek assistance from our U.S. representative, Keating, and solicit his intervention and help in the Congress. So I would suggest that the board, I don't think we need a vote on this, but I would suggest that the board authorize Selectman Slavin, since he's the one who's sort of on top of this the most, to go ahead and make the outreach to Selectman Keating's office, Representative Keating's office, to try to see what can be done about this.
May I ask a question? It seems to me you either believe in global warming or you don't. I happen to. It seems to me that you either believe that you should rebuild something in a sub-ocean water level, or you shouldn't. As the world changes, the places that people in the United States and other countries built are not going to be available to them anymore. What was originally deep water riverfront here in Wareham is now shallow draft waterfront, and there's been a lot of silting. That happens to be the case in many areas. Wareham is a community, a coastal community. I'm not saying that I think that we should jump up and down and embrace this, but I do think that it is important to recognize that we are not the only community that is going to suffer with an increase in the rates. However, it is private underwriting of risks that people have taken if they choose to build in a river valley, in Louisiana on a bayou, or beneath the water level on a levee. I'm not sure that it's something that we should get too involved in, or certainly I don't want to, because I don't think that rebuilding houses on Plum Island is a great idea, just to pick a place that has nothing to do with Wareham. At some point, the ocean is going to win.
Selectman Slavin?
I agree with Mrs. Whiteside. The facts are coming pretty steady constantly on this. This is one of those short-term rather than long-term issues. We have a short-term problem. The long-term, of course, is that people are going to have to relocate. Hopefully they'll have insurance that will cover them making a move back or whatever. People already in Chatham and other areas are losing their homes, and there's nothing they can do about it. But for the short term, as far as the financial implications that we have, I would think that we probably still should write a letter off, asking for some help in this program. It should come from the chairman of the board, though, because it doesn't come from a member. It should come from the board with the chairman signing it.
Well, Selectman Tropiano, what do you think? We're not asking anyone to roll back the tides here. That's not going to happen.
Frankly, I don't have any problem with sending a letter off. I don't think it's going to get you anywhere. I mean, this whole change in the FEMA regulations and matter of fact, they changed the elevations, the flood elevations everywhere as well. And this all stems from what happened in the Gulf and the different odd hurricanes that happened down there. But yet we have to take the brunt of it. And the reason why we do that is because insurance is global. Insurance is not Louisiana or wherever. It's global. So they have to spread that out. And that's why we're taking the hit. And it's too bad because I'm not so sure that we're in the same situation as New Orleans, which is half underwater, mostly underwater if it wasn't for its levees, and things like that. But at any rate, I have no problem with sending this letter.
One other point.
Yes.
During Hurricane Carol, I've said this before, I'll say it again, what I call back of Main Street was underwater 14 feet. Yep. During my lifetime, 14 feet underwater. So it's not new.
No, it isn't. My grandfather actually rode my grandmother down Main Street after the hurricane had departed and the winds had gone, but it takes a couple of days for the water to subside afterwards.
And I believe that the floodplain here was 15.1 feet, so it was just at that level, and they used the 100-year number, but I think it was 15.1, and I think it's just got raised, and I don't know what the new number is, but I know it did get raised.
Well, we heard from the chief whatever that word is. No, we heard Chief Weatherman at the National Weather Service office in Taunton last year during an emergency management preparation clinic, I guess you might say, put on by the chief of police, that a Category 3 hurricane hitting Wareham at high tide could result in a 25-foot storm surge. So look around you and look up 25 feet, and that's where the water's going to be if you're down near the coast. So
Surfing.
yeah, surfing on Main Street. I'll have waterfront property. It'll be very interesting. Anyway, I guess we'll get going on that letter then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fields and grounds is the next subject. Mrs. Whiteside.
Okay. When I was employed by the school department, I was asked to join a committee, and I refused because I said, now I got enough to do, teaching. And then somebody called me personally and asked if I would please serve on the committee. And to that individual, that's cute, I said yes. So that committee was called Fields and Grounds, and it was consisted of people from different areas of town, and of course the guilty party sitting in the room, Ms. Smith. And it included people from the different parents or people who were involved in different areas of youth sports. John Kelly was baseball. James Franklin, I can't remember. Ben Hathaway, hockey. Jim Moran is employed by the school department. Bob Katarius was soccer, is soccer. Charles Stevens, I don't remember what sport, and myself as, representative of the school. One of the things that we were charged with doing, and we met monthly, was to talk about what fields and grounds, playgrounds were available to the citizens of the town. Now, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it again. When I was a selectman a long, long time ago, we actually paid $25,000 for a study of the various playgrounds in town, and there was a program of bettering them. It was never followed through with. It was an expensive program, and we had money issues at the time. I don't know how to run the little doohickey machine, so I've asked Mr. Sullivan to do that for me. The document that we're going to really race through, I think, is a document that was actually prepared by John Kelly, who today is a firefighter, and who spent, as you will be able to tell, hours looking at the different playgrounds in the town of Wareham and open space. We presented this document, this PowerPoint presentation, to the then superintendent and the then town manager. Do you like my pregnant pauses? It went nowhere. I think it's important for the townspeople to recognize what kind of work went into this. I think it's important for the Community Preservation Act Commission to have a copy of this document. I think it's important for the Open Space Committee to have a copy of this document. We've already given a copy of the document to the superintendent of schools. The CPA, I believe, was funding a study for Fields and Grounds. And this certainly is a document that they can use to save themselves a lot of money. It goes through virtually every playground in town, has some pictures, and then some quick verbiage about what should be done. So I'm not going to talk because you can all read, and I think you can all see the screen. And I think what Mr. Sullivan can just do is poke the button and go through, and you will see what kind of work was done and what the recommendations for each one of the playgrounds was.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So this is Indian Mound.
Not good.
Not very appealing, is it?
Nope.
This was presented in 2010, October of 2010.
Hasn't gotten any better either. No, it's got worse.
Hmm?
It's got worse, not better.
Yes.
If I go too fast, just let me know.
No, I don't think you're going too fast. Weeantic Playground. Again, heavy usage by all sorts of different groups, and not very well maintained. And in fact, some dangerous things. You will see, Ms. Smith, that is Mr. Lukey, right? Yeah. There is a dedication, a memorial in this playground actually for him. The space, when my kids were young, we used it to play soccer, youth soccer on it. It was not a very good soccer field. It was full of holes, glass, lumps, and bumps. You'll see that many of the suggestions are easily remedied if we could have a group, kind of like the group that built the Lopes Playground. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you one more time. That was started when I was a selectman. We challenged each other to get that playground in shape. We had a weekend build-out, and the National Guard and virtually the entire town turned out and made that playground what it is. Swift's Beach Playground, again, dedicated to somebody. Fencing is pretty easy to damage. It's not that easy to repair, but driving a car into it or an ATV or something like that is pretty easy to wreck it. Again, the equipment is, this is 3 years old now, this presentation, so I'm not even sure what is there now, but I'm guessing that it is certainly not even as good shape as it is in these pictures. the Aruda Field, which of course is in back of the library. The library has a presentation going before the CPA to make a showcase playground. This was specifically dedicated to our first Vietnam casualty. Oakdale. Very localized playground. I'm not sure a whole lot of people even know that it exists. And again, I drove by there the other day and it doesn't look like that now. I can tell you. Shangri-La Playground, the sign says it all. Again, this area now has substantially more broken glass and junk in it, and I don't believe it has much of what you see there. You can tell that somebody was a baseball fan because on virtually all of these, there's clean it up and put some stone dust down so we can play some ball. Right, I know. Yeah. Sylvester Garden, that's right outside this building, right over here. Okay. Basketball court. Some of the issues there, I think, continue to be kids using skateboards on furniture that shouldn't be skateboarded upon. It is a court that is used virtually every day of the year. The track, which was resurfaced, again, not that bad. Surface was pretty brand new at that point. But you look at the bleachers and you'll see some dangerous situations. And where the, what is that thing you throw, the hammer? You can, if you miss, you miss. Part of the backstop for the hammer throw. And the discus, I guess. The soccer field. That is what I call the Boys and Girls Club next to field. It's used as a practice field now. All the time. The tennis courts. Just recently, a member of the school committee donated $3,500 to repair the cracks in these courts. And you can see that the problems were there 3 years ago. The softball field in front of the high school. Not too bad, except that from time to time you can find arrows there because, of course, PE is taught on that field as well. Palmer Field. Really pretty ratty grass. In fact, I don't think there are more than 25 blades. Used regularly. The fencing, dangerous. Again, Mr. Kelly was president of Little League at the time. That's okay. West Wareham Academy. You have to look pretty hard to find that there's a swing set out there. Although I did read that the students there have been working on the landscaping. It is not, did not include play areas. Mine at Forest School had a wonderful parents group put together a younger children playground out front. And I'm sorry, that was Deacon's. This is Mine at Forest. In the back of Mine at Forest, there's a field that is used for soccer. It makes the grass on Main Street look pretty good, Mrs. Slavin. Again, the school uses this for recess, and our high school sports use the upper field, which you can see there. It's not nice grass. It is in the Mine at Forest, and a lot of those trees are dead now. The Hammond School is no longer being used as a school, and to be honest with you, I don't think any of that stuff is there right now. It is, however, it was a dedicated playground for a grade school. And playgrounds aren't just used by kids. The Deacon's School, this is the one where the parent group got together and put together a fabulous younger kids playground in the front of the school. It's very visible, a lot of time and energy and a lot of money and a lot of free donations of time and energy went into that. So this one is outdated because the PTA and the parents actually took the bull by the horns. This field was recently re-sodded by Wareham Youth Soccer. The funds and the labor were all donated. Baseball field is regularly used by, is it Babe Ruth? Yeah. Babe Ruth. And that dugout has... Dugouts have been done over the buildings. Yeah, so that's better. Carver Road tennis courts. Bet you didn't even know about those. Again, vegetation is an issue in nice places like where we get a lot of rain. Union Ave tennis courts, okay? Doesn't look too bad, but courts do crack and grass does grow up and they become ruined really pretty quickly. Lopes Field, this is the one where 30 years ago there was a community project to build what we have. Now, the real problem with this now is the signs kind of look grungy. I will also tell you that at the time we initiated a fund, a perpetual fund, so that the town would not have to pay for the upkeep. In other words, the upkeep was going to come from this fund on an ongoing basis. The fund no longer exists. I don't know what happened to it. There is a field out back where I'm not sure, I know they do fire drills. The police had their function there in early August. The playground itself is very heavily used, particularly in the summertime, but all year round. This, for those of you who have never run a drill or set a pole or had somebody yell at you because you couldn't put a screw in correctly, was quite a lot of fun, actually, to do.
So Robert Leather's design, right?
Yes.
I did
It was designed by a professional playground designer, top of his field at the time. Ooh, a wastebasket. It's gone. Look, more stone dust so we can play some more baseball. Westfield. I really don't want to go there because that has been a pet peeve of mine for more than 30 years. We spent a lot of money and got nothing in return except aggravation. I think Ms. Smith that's why you actually put me on the committee, as I recall. Some equipment, again, heavily used, and some groups do put some money and effort into it. Those would be Little League and yeah, different size diamonds for different age kids.
It was actually a big plan to put 4 fields in there and some soccer fields.
Right.
And it got, the money never got appropriated.
Right. So that's the end of the presentation. Actually, there's more to it, but I think you've seen enough to make you ask yourself a couple of questions. One, why was a committee that did as much work as it did ignored? Because none of you knew about this, I don't think. 2, what can we do about it today when we have what really is an enormous amount of information available to our different boards and commissions? So on behalf of particularly John Kelly, I, as my current job, would like to say thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the time and energy that you put into it. And again, I think I do have a copy of the whole thing in hard copy if you want to see it. There are many suggestions, possibly community groups, possibly CPA money. But we have a lot of opportunities in this town, and I think it's time that we start taking advantage of them and thanking the people who took that kind of time to put into it.
Thank you very much. Do you have a roster of the people who served on that committee? Mr. Slavin, why don't you read that into the record? They deserve our thanks.
She did.
For this. You've got everybody on there?
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you to everybody who participated in that, and I don't think, yes. I think finally this study will see the light of day, and hopefully some action will be taken. And thank you, Selectman Whiteside, for taking the time to get this before us. Next item, please.
Next item is a request from Dave Menard for a letter of support for municipal maintenance dam grant application.
Why don't you speak to this one? You're the damn guy on the board here.
Damn guy.
Yeah. Yeah, you did.
Damn.
About 4 months ago, the state of Massachusetts was in the process of adopting a bill for seawalls, which comes up to our flood insurance, etc. There were certain towns, Situate and places in that area, obviously down the Cape, other places, were looking for some kind of relief and help, and there was a bill that they were putting together, and at the time I went up to the meeting. Unfortunately, I was the only one from our Southeast Mass area representing us at all, and during the discussion I asked that they put in something for remediation for dams, whether it's removal or repair, because they had nothing provided at all. Thankfully, they actually added a piece to the bill which included money as being available. So I believe Mark Gifford, before he left, actually started the process. And Dave Menard has a grant, and he's asking us to write a letter of support. This is not a fix. This is a temporary kind of putting your finger in the dike, trying to hold back the water. There's issues on the side of the dams. There's issues with the dam itself. what we really need to do, and the reason why we're really discussing this besides the grant, is that we need a long-term plan. We have no plan B or anything. If the dam was to become an emergency situation, we have nothing in place, dollar-wise or anything. Right now, the dam in the Parker Mill Dam, which is located next to the Tremont Nail, is basically listed as a high hazard dam. The other dam, which is the Tremont Dam, which is approximately 9 miles upstream, is just slightly below that rating. So I'm hoping that we use this money to at least get a start, but we need to get all the stakeholders, which are the cranberry growers, because the cranberry growers have a certain interest in the dam. They control some of the water flow. The town's responsible, especially for the Parker Mill Dam. It owns it as part of the Tremont Nail, and we need to put together a plan of what we're going to do. Are we going to fix the dam somewhere down the line? Are we going to look at removing? We need all the stakeholders to come and sit down and talk. The process was started about, I'm going to say 2 years ago, and there was some discussion, and it kind of fell apart. But I think it's an issue that needs to look at, because when someone says it's at a high risk, you really don't want to sit and just wait around.
Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
It's interesting that we talk about this at the same time that we talked about the flood insurance, the FEMA, because this office actually does things like removes dams so that fish can swim upstream again. The Connecticut River has been the beneficiary of removal of dams, and as have other rivers in Massachusetts. I know Connecticut goes through others as well. So on the letterhead, it actually says Dam, Levee, and Coastal Infrastructure Repair and Removal Program. So I'm sure the cranberry growers wouldn't like that particularly, but the first people who ever built dams here were beavers. And then, we came along and did the same thing. But rivers don't naturally run into dams.
You're on a roll today.
On a real roll.
Well, we've got it on here as a vote to authorize the letter, so
I'll move to authorize signature of the letter.
Second.
anything else? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. Let's try to grab some money here. Next item, please.
Probably should find a real job, I think. Next item is discussion of Carver, Wareham, Marion Regional Refuse District and CMAS agreements. This is another issue where, in doing some side work and looking at certain things, I came across another issue. Our original agreement with CMAS basically would run out on the first time around. I believe it was in 2013. There was an amendment done to the original agreement about a year after it was put together, and it actually goes out to 2016. Again, we don't have a Plan B or any other plan. CMAS functions as long as it can get enough tonnage in there to process and be profitable, because everybody has to realize it's not a place that's funded by anybody else except what they generate for profit. There was a couple things that came up that made me a little nervous about the whole project. New Bedford Company, which is going to be in Rochester, the sign says proposing to basically other Cape towns about coming and using their facility for waste. If too much of it goes to them, then CMAS has less to work with, and they may not be able to function. The town of, I think it's Falmouth, I believe a few months back, signed an agreement with the town of Bourne, our next door neighbor. They have a very large landfill, and they're going to expand their landfill. I believe they have like a $20 million contract with Falmouth in the areas to take in waste. So the bottom line to all this is we don't really know where we're at, except right now we think we have an entity that works for us, but it may not. So I think we also need to look at this. There was, I believe, a Carver, Wareham, Marion Regional Refuse Committee or something. I
Yes.
can't find any paperwork on it. I think maybe Marietta possibly in the harbor master's office might have something there, but
No.
nope.
Um,
The bottom line is I cannot find anything there. I can't find any
Ray
members.
Pickles.
Ray Nichols?
Ray Pickles and
Pickles.
Marion.
That's it? We have no representative?
Oh, yeah, we did.
Well, we did, but I don't find anything currently.
Well, I'm telling you that Ray Pickles kept the records.
Okay,
You-
because I actually, my stepfather-in-law is one of the signers of the agreement, which is the only one I could find from Wareham.
No. What are you talking about? That's me.
No, I have that's the amendment on the original one.
I signed the original one, too.
Okay, I can't read your writing there. Bottom line is that I don't think anybody's in place as of today. So we basically have something sitting there, waiting for something to happen,
Ray
which
Pickles.
could be a problem. But again, the contract goes till 2016, and the contract reads that either party with a 90-day notice can terminate. 90 days notice for dealing with waste is not a very good piece to have. So I think we need to look at this, get this on the agenda, and see where we're at.
May I volunteer to follow up on this one?
Absolutely.
I mean, it was... It's one of those oldies but goodies that keeps resurfacing.
Yeah, I was going to say thank you for your research into ancient documents here, and their signatories. But if you'd like to take this on, then come back with some information and some guidance. I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah. It's all the printouts.
When would you like to come back and discuss this?
Make it 3 weeks.
3 weeks puts us out till the
17th.
17th again. Three meetings or 3 weeks?
No, 3 meetings.
Oh,
24th.
4th.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're going to get bombarded.
Should keep me at home more often.
I'm sorry?
They should keep me at home more often.
Well, I don't know if you want to be there. Next item on the agenda, please.
I think he should, too.
Last, we have from Mary Ann Silver, our town clerk, about changing to reassign Precinct 6. Precinct 6 with Precinct 3 at the minor school, I believe is what they're asking to do. And I think we have to...
We have to vote for it.
We have to vote because she wants to do it for this fall.
Yep.
So we'll make a motion to incorporate Precinct 6 with Precinct 3 at the minor school for voting purposes.
Mine at Forest School. Second
Minor
motion.
Forest School.
Anything on the question?
This has been approved by the superintendent.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. So, just for information's sake, this will be, there are no elections scheduled to be held until the 2014 annual town election, the second Tuesday in April. I mean, the first Tuesday in April, I'm sorry. But we do need to get this straightened out before then, so that there's time under the law to notify and warn the inhabitants of the towns and those in Precinct 6, especially of the change of location for voting. So,
Next item, Patrick, any business 48 hours?
Nope.
Mrs. Whiteside?
I don't dare talk anymore.
I'm afraid I have one. Very quickly, I'd like to schedule for the 10th for a hearing, the Cranberry Lane. There's been paperwork back and forth. I didn't realize that we didn't get it straightened out. I think Attorney Bowen's been involved with it, but we didn't get back to the parties. They've done their due diligence, and I would like to basically schedule that petition for street acceptance for the 10th of September meeting.
do we presently have an actual petition upon which we can act?
Yes.
There has been one filed. Okay. The last I knew, something had been filed with planning, but I wasn't sure it had come to us.
It came to us indirectly, but it did. And
Okay, as
believe
long
that-
as we have it and it's addressed to us, then that should be sufficient to act.
I believe under the terms, we have to actually open a public hearing on that as well.
Just actually, while we're on this, why don't you give us the 2-minute primer on street acceptance? That might be helpful to anybody listening in.
I'll keep it down to 1 minute, Mr. Chairman. Petitioner files request with Board of Selectmen. Board of Selectmen opens public hearing and votes its intention to lay out a public way, just an intention. It then refers the petition to the planning board for its review and recommendation. The planning board may report back prior to that, and upon receipt of the planning board's report or recommendation, or upon the elapse of 30 days without receipt of such recommendation, the Board of Selectmen may then reopen its hearing and act on the application as it deems appropriate. Typically, the planning board will be going over the meets and bounds and the actual quality of the road and making the technical recommendations to you, and then you take that into account and decide whether it's in good form or whether it needs some work, and at what level if it does need work, at what level your pain threshold is in terms of being willing to accept it and do the work to bring it up to a proper standard. If you think it's satisfactory, you lay it out. If you think it requires more work, you can vote not to lay it out. Town meeting, even though we call them street acceptances, town meeting technically is not accepting the street. Town meeting is accepting the Board of Selectmen's layout of the street. So it's not enough for someone just to petition to put an article on the warrant to accept a street. Town meeting could vote favorably on that, and it would be a waste of time. Town meeting can only vote to accept your layout, and that's how it works.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And just as a reminder, a couple of weeks ago, we did have a special meeting to address the issue of street plowing, the plowing of public and private ways, and also the issues of maintenance. And again, it was decided at that time that due to the fact that we are unable to even tell you exactly what all the public and private ways are in the town of Wareham, and with the advice of council that we would be liable for not plowing a public way, the administration has decided that they would continue to plow as has been plowed in the past. So notwithstanding that we've just told you about this process for coming to the board for the layout of your street and then consideration by town meeting, there is no particular urgency for this season to do that. You will, however, probably want to make your intentions known on the first Tuesday in April, when this is likely to become a ballot question at the annual town meeting. So I think that's where most of the problems for most people will be best addressed. So
It's not town meeting. It'll be the April elections.
the April election, but actually the
No, town
election is Article 1 on the town meeting warrant, you know. So I'm technically correct here, but you're right. It is the annual town election. It will be a ballot question.
Ballot question.
Anything else under town business? 48-hour rule?
Nope.
No.
Town
Next item.
administrators report.
Thank you very much. There's just a quick reminder. Effective August 30th, 2013, the Town of Wareham Municipal Maintenance Department, 95 Charge Pound Road, will no longer accept brush Monday through Friday. Instead, brush will be accepted between the hours of 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on the second Saturday of each month. So that'll be beginning September 14th, 2013. Brush removal is for Wareham residents only. A valid transfer station sticker is required and must be appropriately affixed to the vehicle. Brush can be no larger than 3 inches in diameter. No logs or stumps will be accepted. No private contractors will be allowed to dispose of brush. No overloading of brush or trailers larger than 8 by 12 will be accepted. For more information, please contact the Municipal Maintenance Department, 508-295-5300. To obtain a Wareham transfer station sticker or a one-day pass, please call the Harbor Master's office at 508-291-3100, extension 3186. And I know there'll be, starting August 30th, there'll be people that hadn't heard this, but that's why I'm trying to reiterate and make sure that the information is getting out there. The information is available on the town website as well. Quick update about the parking kiosks. Since July 18th, we have brought in $46,939.50. In August alone, we've brought in $33,001.75. I know people will probably get sick of hearing about this, but it's interesting. We have exceeded last year's August collections by $9,000 and still have several days to go, including one of the major holidays, weekends, day out of it. In the last meeting, we spoke about, one of the selectmen had spoken about us purchasing more kiosks, and it brought something to mind that I think we need to strongly consider, which is creating a parking department line and funding that, not through a revolving fund, but through the parking, the receipts reserved for appropriation account. So every town meeting, we'd go and say, we're going to fund this with, let's say, $25,000. That would be for the maintenance of the kiosks, for any of the fees involved. It would also be if we wish to purchase more kiosks. And I think that is something that, if it's not going to be in this fall town meeting, you'll see it in the April. I do think we're going to hold off on purchasing new ones until we see what comes out of the CETA study of the parking and onset. I think it'd be important to see where we're headed with it.
Just by way of a question, when would that CETA report be received by the town? Do you have any idea when it's going to be completed and available?
I believe it will be October.
I don't think it would be the worst idea. I don't know what the other members think. I don't know if it would be the worst idea to have a placeholder on there.
Okay.
I don't think it's not a lengthy piece of legislation. It shouldn't, you're going to have to draft it anyway for the spring, so I don't see anything wrong with having it on there just in case we do have sufficient information to act on it at the October town meeting, because as I recall, the lead time to get these things was a couple of months. And if we do this in the end of April, then we're looking at the end of June, and we're missing a decent month of potential receipts from summer people. So
That makes sense.
It will also give you time, if there's group purchasing going on, you might be able to combine in with another group that has a large purchase, and the cost per unit goes down substantially then.
And then the other item is at the Springtown meeting, we had accepted a reorganization of the finance department. And by charter, after the close of town meeting, it wouldn't take effect for 60 days. The 60 days have passed. It is an upgrade of the treasurer collector position to the finance director, treasurer collector, a lengthy title, but done in other communities as well. And obviously that's Mr. Foster, who's been upgraded, so I'd like to congratulate him on that and look forward to his help. Thank you.
Well, I'll second the congratulations to Mr. Foster. He's a very able employee, and this is an ideal position for him. He's intimately familiar with the departments that he will be supervising. I don't want to say he's bounced around town hall because he's only been in a couple of stops, but he's interacted with all the departments he's going to supervise. I think this is a real boon to the town that we're going to put a good person in a good position.
Thank you. That is it. Thank you.
Next item.
Peter, any reports from committees? Oh, excuse me, Patrick. Space. Judy? Planning board met last night. There was a meeting with two of the selectmen as well as a workshop. They continue to work on the TDR. We are going to be working very hard at trying to get that done for the fall town meeting. Signed bylaw at this point looks like it's virtually 100% finished and ready to go. There'll be I think there'll be sometime September, I don't have the date yet, there will be a public hearing which will include at least the TDR and the signed bylaw, hopefully the marijuana actual bylaw itself. There's a boilerplate piece out there, so it won't take us very much time to do it. They're finalizing locations. And also there was some request from the planning board about doing a large-scale solar bylaw. That again is a boilerplate provided by the state. It would not take very much work to get that done also. It's a lot of work for the planning board. I've asked basically through the board to our attorney that we have John Whitten, who's part of our team, and Mr. Whitten has a lot of time and experience with this, and actually goes back to the 2005 to 2007 time frame when the TDI was first on the table here in the town. So we're going to do our best to get this all done before the town meeting. These are long, complicated documents. We're going to try and get it out ahead of time on the town website so people can read it. They are not simple documents. Sign ones also. That's all I have.
Well, thank you for the update from last night. You know, the town's frankly has been screwing around with the TDR for 8 years. It's time for us to get it done. It's compressed time. We don't have a town planner, which of course makes it a little more complicated. But nonetheless, there's no reason, with the work that's already been put into it, the fact that we've got a reasonably strong draft from 2011 to work off of, and the fact that there's a great interest on this board and also on the planning board to get this done, there's no reason why we can't have something prepared for town meeting. So I appreciate the update from last night and the
Talking about the
status.
TDR, right?
Yes.
The sign bar's ready, but I'm not crazy about it. There's a lot of holes in that bylaw. I did. I got it and I read it, and it's there's a lot of stuff in there that is only going to hurt small business.
Well, there'll be a time certainly to discuss that.
And we'll discuss it.
Planning board hearings where certainly people can go and make their feelings felt and heard. And I guess that's that. Is there anything else, or are we all set, ready to go?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 4-0-0. Thank you all. Just as an announcement, there will be no meeting of the Board of Selectmen next week. We've been met every week this summer. It's time we all took a break. This board's worked very hard. There's been a lot demanded of it the past several months. There's been a lot of work accomplished. I think a break would be useful. Everybody can step away from things for a couple of weeks, come back raring to go for the fall. And I'd like to thank my fellow board members for bearing with me on these lengthy and aggressive agendas and getting a lot of work done. Thank all of you. And good night.